Hello, I'm Kawase of Karuta Club. And I'm Na-chan. And today we're making a video for Karuta beginners. The theme is Getting Started Right Away with Kyogi Karuta. We'll explain what materials you'll need as well as the basic rules of the game. Well then, let's get started! Materials. First, I'll introduce the materials you need to get started. You'll need two things. The first is a smartphone. And the second is a deck of百人一首or Kyogi Karuta cards. I've got my smartphone right here. So I'll explain about how to prepare the cards. There's two ways. The first way is to purchase an official deck of Kimari-Ji-Karuta from Oishi Tengudo. The other way is to print out your own cards. If you go to Karuta Club's website, you can download a Word file of the cards for free. Print those out, cut them up, and you can start using them right away. So here we have some that we've already made. We've made these ones more durable by pasting them to cardboard. But you can skip that step and just start with the paper cards as well. Alright, shall we get started then? Sure, let's get started. Fundamental rules. Alright, let's get to it. So typically, Karuta is played on tatami mats, so if you have a tatami mat or anything similar, that's great. But for beginners, it's fine to play on a carpet. Playing on a bare floor without a carpet might be a bit rough. So here we have our 100 Kimariji-Karuta cards, and first we'll flip them all upside down and mix them together. All mixed. After that, we'll both pick up 25 cards. Right now, we're using 100 cards, but in a typical Karuta match, we only play with 50 cards. So usually you'll take half of a full deck and split it evenly between the two players. To make sure you take the right amount of cards, it's usually best to count 5 cards at a time and make 5 piles. Alright, let's pick up the extra cards. Next, let's line up the cards. With the cards face down, lay out 3 cards evenly spaced down the middle. Your partner will do the same. This will help you lay out your card placement. These middle cards are essentially your guide for laying out the top, middle, and bottom rows on your side. If you're just starting out, it's fine to just lay out your cards in any order that you like. Just notice here that they're lining up their top, middle, and bottom rows with the center cards. After they place their cards, they take the middle cards and line those up too. All finished! So there are some rules for lining up your cards. The width of your playing field should be no more than 87 centimeters, and your field is 3 rows deep. The width between each row on your playing field is 1 centimeter each. If you have a tatami mat, each tatami row is about 1 centimeter, so you can use that as your guide. Now the distance between your top row of cards and your opponent's top row should be 3 centimeters or 3 tatami rows. As for the orientation of the cards in your field should be oriented so that they are right side up from your perspective. Your opponent's cards should be right side up for them and upside down for you. Next, some rules for how to take the cards. First is that you can only use one hand to take the cards. So if you're right-handed, you should practice taking cards with just your right hand. And if you're left-handed, practice taking cards with just your left hand. The second thing is that before the reader reads the Kimari-ji for a card, you can't have your hands in the playing area. That means you'll need to wait with your hand behind this bottom line. To make sure it's not over the line, you'll need to wait with your hand resting on the tatami like this. And now the match. For Kyogi Karuta, you need someone to read the cards for you. For that, we'll be using a Karuta card reading app. Karuta Club actually has its own Karuta reading app called Karuta Chant. You can download this app from our website, so please give it a try. Then, let's get started. The joka, or introductory poem, is now being read. It's sort of like a countdown to the first poem. The first poem of the match is read after the second half of the joka is read 2 times. I took the card. The card that was read was Okoto no, and here you can see the Kimari-ji written in red is Oko. If you take a card, and I took this one here with my right hand, since I'm right-handed, you should flip the card over face down and put the card next to you on the opposite side from your dominant hand. So I'll put it here on the left. Now we're playing the second half of the poem. Again, this is like a countdown to the next card. The next card will be read after the second half finishes. No card. Out of the 100 cards, we're only playing with 50, so of course half of the cards which are red will not be in play. Now we're playing the second half of the poem. Again, this is like a countdown to the next card. The next card will be read after the second half finishes. How are you so fast? Yay! Actually, I was waiting for this one. I took the Fu card. So in Kyogi Karuta, the person who wins isn't the person who takes the most cards. The rule is that the winner is the first person to get rid of all of the cards on their side. So just now, I took a card from my opponent's side. But if I take the card from my opponent, now my opponent has one less card on his side, which is not good news for me. So whenever you take a card from your opponent's side, you're allowed to choose any card that you like from your side to give to your opponent. You then send this one card to your opponent. Thanks, I don't need it. The person who receives the card can place the card anywhere that they like on their own side. Now we're playing the second half of the poem. Again, this is like a countdown to the next card. The next card will be read after the second half finishes. Just now, Naniwae was read, but this card is Naniwaga. That was a mistake. This is called a foul or otetsuki. If your opponent commits an otetsuki like this, you send your opponent a card. Ah, this is a penalty, isn't it? Yeah, so like this, we can keep reducing the number of cards on our side one by one until one of us has 0 cards left. Again, wait for the second half of the poem to finish. He took the card from his opponent's side, so he sends 1 card. We'll keep playing the game like this, so in the meantime I want to explain about the cards. In Hyakuen Ishu you have the Kaminoku, which is the first half of the poem, and the Shimonoku, which is the second half. In Kyogi Karuta you will react to just the first half of the poem, and you have to touch the card which corresponds to the correct second half. Now I'd like to explain the flow of the game with this image. If the reader were to start reading the next card immediately after reading the first half, you'd have no time to prepare. That's why, even though you don't need to hear the second half, the reader reads the second half anyway as a kind of countdown before reading the beginning of the next poem. The introductory poem at the beginning of each match is a poem not included in the 100 poems. And in no time at all, the Karuta Club captain has only 1 card left. At the end of a match, you bow first to your partner and then to the reader and say thank you to both of them. Since I have 0 cards left on my side, I'm the winner! Yay! So frustrating. When we finish, we should count up the card difference. 6 cards is the difference. That's my score if we're keeping score. Next, let's make sure we have all 50 cards here. We've got them all. That's it for the match. Detailed rules. We've finished explaining the basic, fundamental rules of Karuta, but there are also many more detailed rules that I'd like to go over. I'll start with how to take a card. So let's start by imagining that this card that's turned over here is the card that is being read. Of course, if I touch the card directly, I can say I took the card. But if you've seen Karuta being played, you've likely seen players hit a whole bunch of cards all at once like this. You may wonder if this also counts as taking a card. This method still works because you can take a card by hitting the card out of the playing area. And you can see the two playing areas here highlighted in red. This only counts if you make the card completely leave the playing area. For example, here the card has not completely left the area. Also, I hit the card next to it, so I touch this card directly. So in this case, I can't say I've taken the card. That's a bit tricky, right? Next, I'll explain otsuki or fouls. So if this card is the one being read and I touch the cards here, here, and here, it's fine. This is not considered an otsuki, so there's no penalty. That's because all the cards are in the same playing area. All of the cards in the same area as the card being read are fair game. You can touch them without getting penalized, but you can't touch any of the cards in the opposite playing area as the card that's being read. If I touch any of the cards over here, that would be otsuki. The other type of otsuki is if you touch any cards while a dead card is being read. Continue. Next, we'll go over what happens if both players make an otsuki. This is called Tomohote. Let's say I touch the wrong playing area when a card is read, or I touch these cards when a dead card is read, and my opponent does the same. This is a foul for both of us. In this case, there's no penalty. Here's another example. Let's say I'm waiting and listening for a card, and my opponent pushes down on my hand and makes me touch the card. In this case, I was not intending to touch the card, but my opponent made me touch them. This is also considered an otsuki by both players, so there's no penalty for either person. How was our explanation? In this episode, get started right away with Kyogi Karuta. We covered all of the basics from what you need to get started to the basic rules of the game. Since we just went over the absolute basics, there are probably some issues that will come up during a match that we didn't cover in this video. On our website, we've compiled a Q&A of things that often give beginners trouble. So if you like, please check out our website. If you liked our video, we hope you'll give us a like and subscribe to our channel. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Line. Okay, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.